Hello, here is a quick review of volume and surface area. To find the volume of a rectangular prism, which is up here, you take the length, the width, and the height, and you multiply them together. So if you have a rectangular prism, it's length times width times height. This also works for cubes. Cubes are special because cubes, the length, the width, and the height are all the same. Next, let's look at the volume of a triangular prism. Here we have a triangular prism. Its bases are triangles, and then it has rectangles going all around it. To find the volume of a rectangular prism, we take half times the length times the width times the height. Or we can take the length, the width, the height, multiply them together, and then divide that answer by 2. Very simple, just follow the formulas. You may want to stop this now and copy these formulas before you take the quiz. Also, remember that your answers for volume are labeled in cubic units. Okay, so for example, if it was inches, our answer would be in inches cubed. Volume is fairly easy to find. Next, let's look at surface area. Surface area is when we find the area of each face of a solid and then add them together. So let's look at the first one. This is a rectangular prism. Rectangular prisms have a front, a back, a top, a bottom, a side, and a side. The front and the back are the same rectangles. The front and the back are the same rectangles. The two sides are the same rectangles, and the top and the bottom are both the same rectangles. So I labeled it F and B for front and back, side and side, top and bottom. Then I have to go over here and I have to look at my prism. I like to start with the front. Here's the front. We know it's the same as the back. The length of the front is 5 and the height is 12. So to find the area, I'm going to do 5 times 12. And then I'm going to double that because we have a front and a back. I'm not going to have room here, so I'll write it at the bottom. I may have room. So 5 times 12 is 60, times 2 is 120. Next, let's look at the two sides. The side over here is 3 by 12, and there's one side and another side. So now I'm going to do 2 times 3 times 12. I know 3 times 12 is 36, times 2 is 72. And lastly, I'm going to look at the top and the bottom. The bottom is 5 by 3. 5 times 3 is 15, and then we're going to multiply that by 2. And get 30. And again, I'm multiplying by 2 every time because there's a top and a bottom. There's two sides, and there's a front and a back. Now I'm going to take these 3 numbers, add them together. 2, 10, 11, 12, 222. When we write the answer, since it is area, we're going to label it in inches squared. So the answer to this is 222 inches squared. Now let's look at our triangular prism. Our triangular prism has 2 triangular faces. You should see this triangle up here, and there's a triangle back here. We know that they're going to be exactly the same. I'm going to call this the front triangle and this the back triangle. So I'm going to have to find the area of the front and the back. So again, to find the area of a triangle, you do base, which is 5, times the height, which is 6, divided by 2. So base times height divided by 2. 5 times 6 divided by 2. But since there are two triangles, a front and a back, I'm going to then have to multiply by 2. So 5 times 6 I know is 30. Divided by 2 gives me 15. But then when I multiply it, because there's another triangle, I'm back to 30. Then we have a bottom. All the rectangles going around this are not the same size, I'm noticing. My bottom rectangle, if this is like a tent, the bottom of my tent would be 5 by 20. Trace around it if you need to. Okay, it's touching the 5 and the 20 when I trace around it. So the bottom is going to be 5 times 20, which is 100. Don't get confused when you're doing this. Be careful. Then I notice that there's a side rectangle over here and another side rectangle over here. Now, both of these rectangles, I'm noticing that this is an isosceles triangle. This side is 8 and this side is 8. So I'm noticing that these two rectangles, the right side and the left side, are both going to be the same. So I'm going to label them, since they're both the same, side and side. And they are 20 by 8, or 8 times 20. And since there are two of them, I'm going to then multiply that by 2, because there's two sides. So 8 times 20 is 160, times 2 is 320. Now I'm going to add these three numbers together. I get 0, I think I get a 5, and I get a 4. And we're labeling this in centimeters squared because it is area. When you're solving these problems, notice I wrote stuff down. Please write everything down. If you try to do it all in your head, it will not work. You will not get this answer. Write stuff down. Carefully trace over things with your finger if you need to. Good luck on the quiz.